Jonathan Roumie was not expecting this. A woman he had just met, a complete stranger, walked up to him at a faith conference, smiled, handed him a book, and then quietly walked away. At first, he thought it was just a kind gesture from a fan, but what he found hidden inside that book left him absolutely speechless. It wasn't a note or a prayer request. It was something else, something bold, personal, and wildly inappropriate. At that moment, Jonathan realized that fame, especially when you play Jesus on TV, comes with unexpected and uncomfortable attention. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. From strange messages to shocking proposals, Jonathan's private life has become a storm of rumors, temptations, and judgment. But what he's finally revealed about it all, his dating life, his faith, and that hotel room key, will leave you stunned. Jonathan Roumie is known around the world as the actor who brings Jesus to life in The Chosen. His performance has moved millions. His quiet strength, emotional depth, and heartfelt expressions of faith have made him more than just a TV star. He's become a symbol of spiritual hope for many fans. And yet, despite the image people hold of him, Jonathan is still very human. He's single. He's turning 51 this year, and just like anyone else, he's had moments of heartbreak, confusion, and even loneliness. But recently, it's not just the lack of a relationship that's made headlines. It's a particular incident that caught everyone's attention, including Jonathan's. While speaking in interviews about his faith journey and personal life, Jonathan shared something that caught people completely off guard. It happened at a faith conference, not exactly the place you'd expect anything scandalous. He was in the VIP room surrounded by people excited to meet him. Fans were lined up waiting for autographs and photos. One woman approached, smiled warmly, and handed him a book. It seemed innocent. She didn't linger. She didn't say anything unusual, but when Jonathan later opened the book, a hotel room key fell out. No note, no name, just the key. It was clear what the message was supposed to be. And Jonathan was shocked. Shocked not just because of what the woman did, but because it happened at a place centered around worship and faith. I didn't know how to react, he admitted in a later interview. I'm just standing there thinking, what is going on? He's always been respectful of his fans. But this was something else entirely. And it didn't stop there. That hotel key story went viral among the Chosen community. People started speculating, who was the woman? What did Jonathan do next? But more importantly, how does a man who plays Jesus deal with temptations like this? That's where the story becomes deeper than just one moment. Because the truth is, Jonathan's journey with love, relationships, and faith has been full of difficult turns. Years ago, he admitted that he wasn't exactly lucky in the dating department. And ever since he committed to a deeper walk with God, finding the right kind of partner has become even harder. The expectations placed on him are sky high. People want him to be perfect. But Jonathan's not pretending to be a saint. He's just trying to live out his faith as honestly as he can. And yet, that honesty has led to more questions. Is he dating someone now? Why isn't he married? Fans have created rumors, linking him to various women online, making assumptions, even posting photos with captions like, "This must be his wife." Jonathan has laughed off many of these claims. In an interview with Laya Rose, he opened up about the toll fame has taken on his personal life. Before The Chosen, things were already complicated. But now, he can't even go to a church event without someone asking him to baptize their child, or slipping him a hotel key. There's this line that gets crossed sometimes, he said, and it's uncomfortable, but it's also revealing. Because even though the public sees Jonathan Roumie as the image of calm and purity, he's been navigating situations most people could never imagine. The hotel key wasn't just about one woman, it was about how complicated things get when fans blur the lines between admiration and obsession. And Jonathan's reaction, he didn't shame the woman. He didn't go public to humiliate her. He simply shared the story to show just how surreal his life has become. Still, the moment sparked a much larger conversation, especially online. Some people said the woman was just trying her luck. Others said it was disrespectful and inappropriate, especially at a faith gathering. But all agreed. It was a moment that Jonathan Roumie will never forget. But Jonathan's journey isn't just about waiting for the right person. It's about navigating the weight of expectations, both from the world and from himself. Ever. since he stepped into the role of Jesus in The Chosen Millions, have seen him not just as an actor, but as a symbol of peace, of faith, of moral perfection. But what happens when people start expecting you to become the role you play? That's exactly what Jonathan has been wrestling with. Because behind the scenes, he's still a man figuring things out. He's still someone who wakes up with doubts, who faces rejection, who wonders if he's doing enough or if he's being misunderstood. Playing Jesus brought him closer to God, yes, but it also placed an unbearable spotlight on every choice he makes. Whether he's talking to Whoopi Goldberg or just showing up to a red carpet event, people are quick to judge him through the lens of the character he portrays. And the truth is, Jonathan never asked to be put on a pedestal. In interviews, he's humbly reminded fans that he's just an actor, a deeply faithful one, yes, but still human, still flawed, still learning. Yet the public eye doesn't always allow room for that kind of honesty. If he jokes too much, some say he's not taking his role seriously enough. If he's seen with a woman, people question her motives. If he doesn't respond the way they expect, the backlash can be instant. The comments flood in. Some kind others. Full of assumptions, disappointment, even anger. And it's not just strangers online. Jonathan has shared that even close friends and family have questioned certain choices he's made, especially when it comes to who he associates with or the kind of work he does outside The Chosen. It's like the higher he rises in fame, the lonelier and more complicated the climb becomes. One of the most controversial topics lately has been his friendship with Whoopi Goldberg. Many fans were genuinely shocked. Others were furious. Why would someone so faith-driven be friends with someone whose views are often labeled as anti-religious or politically divisive? But here's where Jonathan's strength really shines through. He doesn't operate from a place of fear. He operates from love, from compassion, from the belief that you don't need to agree with someone in order to care for them. On Sherry Shepherd's show, he spoke fondly about Whoopi, even doing a hilarious impression of her and calling her his fairy godmother. That comment alone sparked a storm online. People questioned his discernment. Some even accused Whoopi of trying to manipulate him or steer him off his spiritual path. But Jonathan didn't back down. He didn't clap back at the hate or try to justify himself. He let the comments be what they were, opinions. And he continued to show Grace the same grace he tries to reflect in his daily walk. This raises a bigger question that many fans don't want to face. Have we made Jonathan carry too much? Have we placed too many expectations on a man who never claimed to be anything more than an artist guided by faith? It's easy to idolize someone when they inspire us. It's harder to accept their humanity when it doesn't match our personal vision. But Jonathan doesn't want to be idolized. He wants to be understood. He wants to be seen for who he is. Oh, a man whose life is built on prayer, who tries to love people without strings attached, and who still struggles with feeling alone in a crowd. The irony is painful. As much as he's adored by millions, he's admitted to seasons of feeling deeply isolated emotionally and spiritually. Not because he's lacking anything in his relationship with God, but because the noise of the world can make it hard to hear God's voice, especially when that world expects you to be flawless. And maybe that's why he's still single. Not because he hasn't had offers, not because he isn't attractive, but because he's fiercely protective of his heart. He's not just waiting for someone to love him. He's waiting for someone who understands the weight he carries. Someone who can walk beside him in prayer, who knows how to stay grounded when the world spins out of control, who doesn't need him to be Jesus, but will love him as Jonathan. And maybe that kind of love is rare. Maybe that kind of person is hard to find. But Jonathan's not panicking. He's not compromising. He believes God will reveal that person in his time, not ours. So while the world continues to talk about the hotel key, about Whoopi, about his singleness, Jonathan remains grounded. He continues his work on The Chosen, continues his ministry, and continues to live with integrity even when it costs him approval. He's not living for headlines. He's living for something eternal. And that's what makes his story so powerful, because at the end of the day, it's not just about who he's dating or what show he's on. It's about the quiet strength of a man who chooses faith over fame, truth over popularity, and purpose over pressure. Let's talk about what makes Jonathan Roumie's journey so different and why it resonates so deeply with fans around the world. It's not just his good looks, his charm, or even his iconic portrayal of Jesus in The Chosen, it's the authenticity behind it all. In a world obsessed with filters, PR spin, and carefully curated images, Jonathan remains shockingly real. And that's rare. He talks about his struggles, his doubts, his past mistakes, openly. He admits that he was far from perfect before finding faith, that before The Chosen, he was broken and unsure of what his future held. Most actors, especially those rising in fame, would hide that. They'd rewrite their story to make it sound more glamorous. But not Jonathan. He shares the messy parts, the parts that aren't flattering, the parts that most people would rather keep private. Why? Because he knows those are the moments people connect with most. One of the most powerful. Stories he shared was how close he came to giving up acting entirely. He had only $20 in his bank account. Rent was due. He had no idea how he was going to make it. And so he fell to his knees, prayed, and surrendered. Fully. Completely. That was the turning point. Within days, things started to shift. A job came. Then, The Chosen happened. Not because of luck, but because of faith. But here's the important thing. Jonathan doesn't use that story to say, "Hey, look at me, I did it." He tells it to say, "Look what God did." And that's the core of everything he shares. He doesn't take the credit. He points it back to God every single time. That humility is what draws people to him. Fans don't just love Jonathan because of how he plays Jesus. They love him because he reflects what following Jesus actually looks like in real life. It's not perfect. It's not always joyful. Sometimes it's full of pain, isolation, waiting, and surrender. But it's real. And when Jonathan talks about his loneliness or being misunderstood, even now, even while famous, it reminds us that success doesn't erase the need for connection. Fame doesn't fix the ache for purpose. In fact, sometimes it makes it worse, because now he has even more eyes watching, more opinions being thrown at him, more pressure to never slip. And yet, in the middle of that, Jonathan keeps choosing grace. He keeps choosing prayer. He keeps choosing love over outrage. Recently, he said something that caught a lot of people off guard. He admitted that he sometimes struggles with spiritual dryness. Yes, even after all his success, even after portraying Jesus for multiple seasons. That vulnerability shocked some fans. How could someone who's played Christ admit to feeling distant from him at times? But that's exactly why Jonathan continues to inspire. He doesn't pretend he's always on fire spiritually. He talks about the hard days, the days when God feels silent, the days when the prayers don't seem to be answered right away. And those moments, those are the ones that make his testimony so relatable. Because that's what real faith looks like. Not constant mountaintop moments, but a steady walk through valleys, trusting even when the path isn't clear. And let's not forget the spiritual warfare that comes with being in his position. Jonathan has talked about it subtly, but it's there, lurking behind the praise, the fame, the attention. When you play Jesus, you're not just acting, you're stepping into something sacred. And with that comes attacks, discouragement, doubt, temptation, people projecting their beliefs onto you, twisting your words, misjudging your motives. Jonathan feels that. He said that every time a new season of The Chosen comes out, the spiritual warfare intensifies. That's not something most celebrities would ever talk about, but Jonathan does. Because for him, this isn't just entertainment. It's ministry, it's mission. And with that mission comes a cost. He's also shared how important spiritual discipline is to him now. Prayer, fasting, confession. The Eucharist, these aren't just traditions to him, they're lifelines. They keep him grounded. They remind him who he is when the noise gets too loud. And they help him stay focused on what really matters. Not the applause, not the headlines, but the deeper call to be a servant. To live a life that reflects the gospel, not just on screen, but off screen too. That's why Jonathan doesn't chase fame. He doesn't try to become a Hollywood star. He's not interested in making a name for himself. He wants to make God's name known. And that changes everything. So yes, he's 50, he's single, he's friends with people some fans don't approve of. He's navigating fame while trying to stay faithful. But through it all, he remains centered. Not because he's strong, but because he knows where his strength comes from. He knows who holds his future. He knows that his worth isn't in relationship status, career success, or public opinion. It's in being a beloved son of God. And that's a truth he holds on to tightly, no matter what the world says. In the end, maybe that's the lesson for all of us. To stop placing impossible expectations on people just because they inspire us. To let them be human, to allow them space to grow, to make mistakes, to learn. Because when we do that, we're not just giving them grace. We're learning to give it to ourselves too. And Jonathan Roumie, in all his honesty, is quietly showing us how to walk that path one step at a time. Now we come to the heart of what fans keep asking. Will Jonathan Roumie ever get married? Is there someone special in his life now? And if not, why not? At 50 single and in the global spotlight, the pressure must be intense. And the speculation? Constant. Some fans think he's secretly dating. Others believe he's chosen a life of celibacy. Some even hope he'll marry someone famous or someone from the Chosen cast. But here's the truth. Jonathan has never played by the world's rules. And when it comes to love, he's doing the same. He isn't chasing romance to satisfy Hollywood expectations. He's waiting for something real, something holy, and in a world that glorifies instant gratification, that kind of patience is revolutionary. Jonathan has been very clear about this one thing. If and when he gets married, it won't be because of pressure. It'll be because God made it clear. He said multiple times that he wants a marriage rooted in faith, a union that reflects God's love, not just chemistry or emotion. That kind of relationship can't be rushed, and it definitely can't be forced. Jonathan isn't interested in a shallow romance for headlines. He's praying for a partner who understands the weight of his calling, someone who can stand beside him through the highs and the very real spiritual battles he faces. That's not a small ask. It's a big one. And maybe that's why he's still single, because God is still preparing both of their hearts. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Imagine being known around the world as Jesus. Imagine walking into every conversation, every new friendship, every possible relationship, while carrying that weight. How many people see him the real him beyond the role, beyond the fame, beyond the idea of who he represents? That's the struggle. Jonathan has admitted that loneliness is a real part of this journey. Even with a platform this massive, even with crowds cheering him on, there are days when it's quiet, days when he wonders what the future holds, days when he brings his longing to God and simply waits. But that's what makes him so rare. He doesn't run from that discomfort. He embraces it. He trusts it has purpose. Let's be honest. Most people in his position would have caved to the pressure by now. They'd have settled. They'd have gotten married just to shut down the questions. Or worse, they'd have gone from relationship to relationship trying to fill the ache. But not Jonathan. He's chosen the narrow road, the harder road, and it's a road of trust. That's not weakness, that's strength, the kind of strength that only comes from surrender. And it's something fans deeply admire, even if they don't always understand it. There have been whispers, photos here, glances there, rumors of a mystery woman. Was she a co-star, a longtime friend, a spiritual partner? No one knows for sure. And Jonathan has stayed mostly silent, respectfully private. He's drawn a boundary, and in today's world, that's incredibly rare, especially when fans want every detail, every update, every romantic clue. But he's protecting something sacred. Whether he's dating or waiting, one thing is clear: Jonathan sees love as holy, not a performance, not content for social media, but a covenant. And that perspective is shaped by his deep Catholic faith, which teaches that marriage is not just about love. It's about mission, about dying to self, about walking the narrow road together. That kind of marriage isn't built on emotion alone. It's built on prayer, trust, and daily sacrifice. And if he's still single at 50, it's not because he's failed. It's because he's listening for God's timing, not the crowd's applause. This might be hard for some fans to accept, especially those who desperately want to see him with someone. Those who think romance is the natural reward after years of sacrifice. But maybe Jonathan's story is different. Maybe God is writing a romance that doesn't follow the typical script, one that isn't rushed, one that surprises even him. Or maybe his love story isn't about a marriage at all. maybe it's about a deeper kind of intimacy. A daily devoted relationship with Christ that fills every space, heals every ache, and leads him exactly where he needs to be. At the end of the day, we all want a happy ending. We want to see our heroes find love, find joy, find someone to walk through life with. But what if Jonathan's story reminds us that the real happy ending isn't marriage? It's purpose. It's peace. It's living fully in God's will, even when it doesn't match our expectations. That's the story Jonathan is telling. Quietly, faithfully, and with a strength that challenges the world's definition of success. So, will Jonathan Roumie ever get married? Maybe. Maybe not. But either way, he's already showing us what real love looks like: patient, kind, sacrificial, and centered on something far deeper than feelings. He's not waiting for a fairy tale. He's waiting for God. And that makes his journey not only rare, but sacred.